Hey everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel. So I thought I'd make a quick video about being typed by somebody online. I'm not gonna say who it was because I don't want other people's opinions of this person to like cloud the stuff that's important. So I was typed based on a 30-minute recording I sent. Somebody had asked several questions. It wasn't that many, they were quite general questions. And I answered the questions and then sent the recording because I wanted to get typed basically, and it was an impulsive decision. I for a while I kind of regretted it and I wished I hadn't done it because, you know, like I spent like, it was like $99 but it was like £70 or something like that. So I just did it on a whim and I was like, I really should have thought that through more. Anyway, I still was kind of interested to know what they thought my type was, their observations and things like that. So I got my type back and I was very strongly TIFE. There was so many examples that they gave showing those two on like the axes. So yeah, very TIFE, but they actually typed me as a sensor, ISTP, and their reasoning for that, basically they were using objective personality system to type. That's how they type people. Their reasoning behind typing me as that was not given in a lot of detail, so there wasn't many examples given. There was many around TIFE, which was nice to be confirmed that I am a TI user, especially as, you know, a lot of people still thought that I was still thinking that I was an INFP, when I think some of my issues around why I come across as an INFP sometimes are, I personally think, to do with inferior FE, and I do feel that I can be easily influenced by other people, and that's a whole different thing. This is like one of my big insecurities. I can be influenced by other people and I do act differently around what I think people want to see me as, kind of being a bit of like a chameleon in that I change my personality. But I think everybody does that in certain amounts. Some people just don't really do that a lot, but some people do that in small amounts. I do it in a much bigger amount, and I think it's because my self-esteem and my confidence isn't great. So I think that's why I do that, and I do have those communication difficulties, which, you know, I work on. Sometimes they're better than other times, but, you know, I've worked on them quite a bit. And I know that that's still going to be a lifelong process. But recognising these things in myself really helps me. You know, it's like bringing out like your shadow side, you know, the shadow side of yourself, and being like, this is what you struggle with. You really need to see that and see that that's what you struggle with. But also seeing that as a struggle can make your self-esteem not so great either. So then you've got to praise yourself for your strengths, and it's just a balance that I'm learning to figure out basically. But yeah, so I got typed as an ISTP, and for a whole like day I was freaking out, like, am I a sensor? And I didn't even realise it. And then I confirmed that I have SI and not SE. Like, I do not have SE. If I was going to be a sensing type, it would be ISTP. I can relate to ISTPs. Sometimes I find it difficult communicating with ISTPs, maybe because we have the same weaknesses, I don't know, or because of their TI, like their strong TI, and sometimes I get confused or I don't understand the way that their TI works. So yeah, you know, we both want to be right. My dad is an ISTP, and I did mention that in the video, and I am pretty certain that my dad is an ISTP. In the past, before I knew about functions, I did type him as an ISTJ, just because he can like routines. And I wasn't really I was more thinking and this is where I get caught up on sometimes. I more think about how they present, like, their interests, sorry, and just general things about them, and more stereotypical things, shall we say, rather than thinking about their language, the way they talk, the way they process information. And obviously you don't see inside their brain, so you don't actually see them thinking about other people and their inferior function. You don't always see that, and it can be something that they think about a lot. Like, I think about my why can't I talk right now? Extroverted, I was going to say exterior, which is not a word. Extroverted feeling is definitely, like, that's how I knew 100% I am not an INFP, because I have that for sure. And, you know, in the past I thought, well, it's probably social anxiety or something like this. And yeah, I do suffer with social anxiety, like, it's part of my communication difficulties. Yeah, so I think, where was I going with this? Yeah, so in the past, I'm just looking at my time because it's the morning and I have to go to work soon. In the past, yeah, so moving on, but basically he didn't give that many details about SE. And when I see other ISTP users, and again, this isn't like, this is for sure, this is what ISTP users do, is they generally are really focused. You can see that they're really focused on something. And obviously, again, like I'm saying, like, I'm really just thinking outside the box, or just thinking, like, theorizing, and that's what I do a lot of. I generally talk by saying things, but I don't mean them. I don't know if they're true or not. I'll just say things, and it helps me process them in a way, I guess. But I'm not always clear, like, I don't actually mean this 100%. This is just ideas that are coming out of me, for example. Suggestions or something, I don't know. Theories, whatever. Yeah, so, oh my god, I've lost my train of thought now, because I'm just thinking about going to work. I don't want to be late. So, yeah, he didn't give me many examples, and I found myself, you know, thinking a lot about it and thinking, could I be a sensor and all this sort of thing. And the details, what he put me down as a sensor for were, I think there were 2 points, and I just can't remember one of them. But the main point was that when I was describing, like, situations, I was just describing them with the details that I remember. You know, like, I was describing a situation where I acted out of character, and maybe it wasn't good for me to share something like that, because then I'm thinking, well, is he actually taking it as, like, as it is, or how I'm actually thinking about it, because how I'm talking isn't necessarily how I'm thinking about it. Oh my god, I was just thinking, like, I don't know. Anyway, so it's sometimes harder for me to put my thoughts into words. But I, you know, was involved in a car crash. I wasn't involved, I appeared at the scene of a car crash, and the people, I knew all the people, but I was really good in the situation. I took over the situation. Nobody seemed to be doing so, and I felt like I had to. I rang, like, 999. I got the police and an ambulance to come because somebody was quite injured, and then there were 2 other people involved in the crash, and I, you know, made sure they were okay. And I also told someone to put their hazard lights on, because someone was at the back, like, sat in their car in complete darkness. And yeah, like, a car could drive up and have their lights on, but still, I don't think it's a good idea just to have your car, like, in the middle of a road, like, which is kind of a single track road. Well, it's not a very wide road anyway. So anyway, I just took over the situation, and I did what I thought I needed to do, and I did really well, and I was quite proud of myself at that moment. And so I shared that, and I shared the details of what happened, but I didn't necessarily, I don't know, share my NE by doing so, because I'm talking about a past experience and all this. I don't know, I overthink things. So last night I was, like, freaking out. I was talking to my partner, and I was just like, he was like, you know that you're this type, we've done all this research together, we've, like, looked at the different functions and stuff, we know that you're this type, why are you acting, like, so irrationally? And I was acting so irrationally. And once I'd finished talking to him, I felt a lot better, and I was just like, yeah, hang on a sec, I was just having a little freak out, and I posted in a certain Facebook group about this, just like having a little rant or a little like vent, and people were like saying stuff to me like, oh, that doesn't sound like this at all, this sounds like an ENFJ wrote this. I'm like, and then someone was saying, I don't get I cross TP vibes from this, and I'm like, how can you get a vibe? And how can you get a vibe from one paragraph that I wrote? I could write something however I want to. Like, I could write something, I could write something and I could pretend to be any type and write something. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't just tell that. And I just think how bad, like, this is what annoys me about personality typing. Okay, for a start, I know you can't really type somebody just from a 30-minute recording. It's a much of a longer process and much more goes into that, and I know that. And I just wasn't quite sure how the questions that were asked, how I could have shown my extroverted side. And I just think, like, when I'm talking to another person, that comes out so much more than when I'm just talking to a camera or when I'm just talking to, like, myself, basically. I feel like my extroverted intuition comes out a lot more. But yeah, so I think having a call with somebody would have cleared some things up around that. But it was still interesting, and I still went down like, what if I mistype instead? And I think that is something that INTPs probably do. It's just interesting for me to share this with you guys, because I wondered what your thoughts on this were. Like, do you think that there's any possibility that I have SE based on what you've seen from my videos? Like, my older videos especially, I think, are the better ones to watch. The ones where I did my vlogs, like I did like 3 monthly vlogs or something like that, and I'm really pleased I did that, because now I can look back on my life. But I look back on my life there and I see it in a certain way, and it wasn't actually that way. Like, I was struggling a lot more with my ADHD, but you can't necessarily see that. You see that in terms of like one video, I just suddenly dye my hair bright purple, and I regret it, but I'm going on holiday, I can't do anything about it, so I'm stuck with this purple hair on holiday, and I'm like, I really do not like this purple hair. Yeah, so if you wanted to watch that, I think that's my Cornwall video. Like, there's a few videos from like a few years ago that you guys can watch if you want to, where you can kind of see how I was before, but they're a bit more, I see more ADHD, basically is what I'm trying to say. But I enjoy things occasionally. Like, I like making crafts. Sure, I like rollerblading. Like, I used to go rollerblading as a kid. Like, I don't necessarily know if I like it anymore. I'd quite like to do it again though. I like ice skating. I like doing physical things. I like hiking when I'm in the woods. I'm really interested in looking at the trees and just appreciating nature and things like that. Do these interests of mine mean that I have extroverted sensei? Again, like, no, they don't mean that. Like, your interests don't always reflect your personality type, and that's something I have to keep reminding myself of, because I'll try and pick out examples that aren't real examples, that actually don't really make much sense. But yeah, I had a bit of a freak out, and I was like, I want to delete all my personality type videos. And hormones were involved in this process, let's just put it that way. So that doesn't help at all. Me and hormones just kind of clash a little bit, and then I can freak out and everything's fine and I'm more rational again. Doesn't mean I'm an ENFJ freaking out that I'm not smart enough. In fact, INTPs can surely feel insecure about their TI at times. We can feel insecure that we're not smart enough at times. I definitely do this. If I make one mistake on something, I am questioning my smartness. And I like to know that I'm a smart person, but that doesn't mean that I'm really insecure about that and I am an ENFJ, because I'm definitely not an ENFJ. Like, there's no way. I struggle so much with people. There's no way that I can be an ENFJ. Yeah, I I know an ENFJ, and she is really lovely, but she sets these, it's almost like she has these like standards for you already that you need to meet. What I mean by that's probably not the right wording. What I mean by that is she, you know, thinks that you should be a certain way because that's what society wants you to be, and or that she thinks that, I don't know, I'm not explaining this very well. I know I'm not explaining this very well. I'm just very conscious that I've got to go to work. But yeah, so there's that. And I don't see myself as a sensor. I spent 24 hours thinking about if I'm a sensor, and you know, I thought possibly I see some sensing in me, but I don't think it is, I know, extreme. I also think that before I took ADHD medication, I wouldn't say I was more intuitive or anything like that, but I was more in my head. I might have been more abstract, I don't know, but I definitely had more ideas. But there was so many flying out of me that I couldn't do anything with any of them, and it used to drive me insane. Like, it used to frustrate me so much. And I just couldn't think clearly and rationally enough because of that. But now I take medication, everything is just almost straightforward sometimes, you know. So yeah, I truly think that I'm an INTP. Please comment if you don't think I am. Like, I would like to know your opinions. But also I'm very aware that when people talk about Myers-Briggs, generally they're talking about their opinions, and their opinions can mean nothing. Like, the only people's opinions I know that really matters and should matter, because, you know, sometimes I get a bit insecure and I'm like, oh my god, are they right? And I think sometimes it's important to consider other people's opinions. Don't just dismiss things because whatever. But anyway, my partner's opinion, my opinion, those closest to me are the ones that should matter the most. It shouldn't be just some random people who are talking about Myers-Briggs in a way that they understand it and from their experience and what they've learned, when, you know, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's not credible. It's not stuff that means anything. Like, you don't know me. You can't type me based on a little paragraph that I have written. It's just, you just can't do that. It's very in-depth, and you can't type someone based off a vibe, I don't think. Like, I cannot type someone based off a vibe. I don't really know what vibes people give off sometimes. But yeah, so that's a little rant over. And I would love to know what you think about this. And I've really got to go to work right now, and I need the toilet, which is why I'm like this. So I will see you guys in another video.